Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Raft. In the last episode, we just got done building our bird's nest, and there was actually a bird that came and perched down there, so hopefully he will come back. Hope you all are having a wonderful day. I see the sharks out there to greet us. I think eventually I'm going to move the bed away from this watering plot. I really need to do a lot more organization of the raft. Actually, maybe that's one of the things I'll do in this episode is just continue to gather more plank and more plastic, and that way we can actually expand the size of our raft so that we can, move around more freely and not have to constantly worry about like tripping over things. We want to go on a good trip, not a bad trip. Speaking of trips, has anybody ever flown first class for like a business thing, or you just decide to splurge and spend the extra for the ticket? I've heard it's pretty nice. I've never actually been on a first class flight, so if you're listening to this video or watching this video, I would love to know what it's like. If you could give me like a description of what it's like. Maybe one day I will. I'm kind of cheap. And then I'm always trying to find the best value, not necessarily the cheapest price. It's hard for me to justify spending for first class because I don't really know what I'm getting, and I don't know, I guess a lot of times it's not very clearly outlined what it is that you get in first class, or I don't know, it probably is. I just don't ever look into it because I'm just trying to get from one point to another point. But if you have any insight about that, I'd love to know. I plan to do some traveling, hopefully, after I graduate from school. Just so you know, I'm currently in registered nursing school. I am just about to enter into my last semester before graduating with my Associates of Nursing, which is actually a 4-year degree. It's 2 years of general education classes and 2 years of nursing classes. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to be able to have more independence and more. I'm actually excited about having more responsibility. Not necessarily more work, although I'm sure that there will be more work, but more responsibility in that I have the ability to help people the way that I know that I'm capable of helping people. As it currently stands right now, I'm not legally allowed to give an injection to somebody, whether that be insulin or whether that be Coumadin or heparin to control blood clotting. I'm not legally allowed to do that without my instructor present. But it's the simplest thing in the world. It really is, and to give those injections. And so I'm looking forward to the ability to being able to do those kind of things on my own without the need for my instructor being there. Or somebody looking over my shoulder. I get really nervous when people look over my shoulder and I'm doing those things. I deal with it because that's, sometimes you're going to have family in the room when you're doing these things. But, so I deal with it. I just don't like it. It makes me more likely to mess up when people are watching me over my shoulder. I suspect that will go away in time. But, yeah, so I'm looking forward to being able to have that kind of increase of responsibility and trust that, I can do these things on my own. So, anyway, let's go to sleep. It's getting dark, and it's really difficult to see. I probably should increase the brightness on my monitor a little bit. So anyway, yeah, I'm graduating soon. I know a lot of my fellow classmates are going on to get their bachelor's. I am not in a hurry to do that. It's something that I plan to do eventually, but I'm not in a hurry to get my bachelor's. I would much rather get some on-the-job experience first, and then I feel like continued schooling will be hopefully a little bit easier once I have some hands-on experience. I know the way that hospitals operate a little better. Where is he? Man, it's so dark I can hardly even see the shark. Oh, he got it. That's a fact. Yeah, so eventually I will probably end up going to get my bachelor's, just mostly because a lot of places are requiring it now, not necessarily because I really want to go get it. That doesn't mean that I would stop learning. I'm always going to be learning as a nurse. I'm going to be learning on the job constantly. I'm sure I'll be exposed to medical journals constantly. You know, I'm going to be interacting with doctors, hopefully, so I'm going to be asking them questions from time to time and learning from them. So I'm never going to stop learning as a nurse. So that's not really the issue, but a lot of hospitals are now requiring a bachelor's degree. So with any luck, I will get into a good paying hospital job where I'm able to utilize my knowledge to the best of my ability and utilize my ability to take care of patients and their families in the best possible way. You know, hopefully I'll be able to do that sooner than later. That damn bird's hitting my crops. Oh, he was going after the scarecrow. I thought he was trying to eat the crops. Or maybe he would have if I didn't have the scarecrow there. Yeah, so a lot of hospitals are requiring it now, and it's really just a pain in my butt because, and I don't know if it is or not, but I suspect that there's an agreement between colleges and hospitals, because colleges make a ton of money off of students. I mean, colleges are just one of the biggest, like, expenses that a lot of people have to deal with. Tens of thousands, possibly even $100,000, depending on where you go to school at, or more. College is a really big business, and you know, a lot of these colleges, or actually I should say all these colleges that offer nursing programs, they also do clinicals, and clinicals involves students working basically for free in the hospitals, doing not only doing things like vital signs, but also if you're a registered nurse, you're doing things like assessment, and you're doing, you know, sometimes some of the things that CNAs usually do, you know, and I'm so thankful for all the CNAs out there. I'm thankful for all the LPNs out there, you know, that do the things that they have to do to, you know, ensure the patients are well taken care of, and a lot of times it frees up the registered nurses when they are doing things like, you know, cleaning bottoms or, you know, checking urinal troughs. Am I gonna make it? I think I'll make it. Yeah, so by them doing those things, they are freeing up the nurse to be able to do other things that, you know, are not in the scope of practice of a CNA or sometimes even the LPN. Do I have any food on me? Not really, just this catfish. But you know what? I'm going to eat it because I don't want to swim slow. And hopefully we won't die trying to get back to the raft. Yeah, so they get free labor from the students doing clinicals. You know, and the students get experience, but at some point, students have enough experience and enough book knowledge that the clinicals become kind of, they decrease in value over time because you're not able to have that kind of autonomy to be able to take care of the patients on your own. You're constantly being watched by an instructor. So the value of each clinical experience, I think decreases over time. And this is just strictly my opinion. You know, this does not represent my college or anybody else's college. I have learned a ton from my college. I've learned a ton from my clinical experiences. But at some point, I do feel like the amount that I'm learning is not increasing as much as it was in the beginning. And I think that's natural because there's only so many tasks that a nurse does. Now, that being said, there's absolutely a ton of jobs that a nurse does. But, you know, when you take vital signs out of the equation, you take assessments out of the equation, and you take giving medicines and looking up medicines out of the equation, and you take you know, basic comfort care uh, for the patients and education for different disease processes for the patients. You take all that out of the equation, and you know, you're really limited on how many new things that you're going to experience. Um, Now, I'm sure over time you'll get to experience all kinds of new things, um, but I feel like the clinical experience is good to a point, um, and you know, I just kind of feel like going back for a bachelor's degree is kind of a money grab, and I don't know that to be true. I don't know exactly what is all entailed in the bachelor's nursing process. Um, I wish this thing would quit trying to destroy my scarecrow and just lay eggs or whatever. Um, I can't believe I pulled that off. Yeah, but I can't imagine that how much more I'm going to would actually learn during the process of. Oh, I need water. Um, During the process of a bachelor's program that I wouldn't either learn on the job or have access to even currently through my nursing books. You know, I don't know what it is, and I've talked to nurses who are currently going for their bachelor's, and they tell me that a lot of it is just writing papers. And I guess that maybe as a bachelor's nurse, they expect that with a higher education level, you're going to contribute to medical journals and maybe possibly help writing in textbooks, or participating in studies, um, you know, or help participating in studies. And so you need to be more educated on how to write a journal entry, an official medical journal entry. Now, that being said, there's a lot of general education classes like English 101 and English 201 and sociology and psychology and all of these things that are required to take before you even get into the nursing program, where you're writing papers constantly. And so, and you learn all about how to cite your sources, um, you know, which type of source you're going to use to write your papers, how to do it officially. Um, you know, I just don't know what you're going to learn in a bachelor's program. And I suspect that on some level, it's kind of a money grab. And when I think about things like those, it really kind of makes me upset. But I am speaking from a place of ignorance, so I could, again, be completely wrong about all of that. Just when tens of thousands of dollars for education is being discussed, it's hard for me not to be at least a little bit suspicious of motives. You know, like, and not just motives, but perspective. Um, you know, like when you go to the dentist and the dentist says, "Oh, well, you know, I highly recommend that you get this automatic toothbrush or water flosser or whatever," and it costs $150 or whatever for that particular, you know, toothbrush or whatever it is. And a lot of people who don't have that kind of money for a toothbrush, you know, like myself, you know, I feel like the doctors or dentists or whatever don't understand what financial level that people live at. I mean, could I afford a $150 toothbrush? Yes, I could. Is it hard for me to justify the purchase of a $250 or $150 toothbrush? Yes, it is. Especially when we know that if you brush and floss and, you know, use mouth rinse and stuff like that, a plain old regular toothbrush. Right there we have a pelican in the wild, or whatever the hell that thing is. Hopefully it's laying us some eggs so we can get some breakfast. Let's try not to disturb her. And hopefully its natural predator, the shark in the wild, won't come up and grab it. But if it does, be assured that we're going to catch it on camera. It's not Shark Week around here. So, anyway, that's kind of my rant, you know, like, a regular toothbrush and flossing and mouthwash is going to prevent you from having all kinds of tooth decay and cavities and, you know, other problems related to, like, infections, you know, all kinds of problems in your mouth. Um, so what do you need a $150 toothbrush for? You know, I think a lot of times doctors and dentists and things, they don't really realize the level that people live at financially. Um, and, you know, I'm sure that there's a good reason for it. I don't think that they're evil, and I don't think that they're necessarily trying to get all your money. You know, but I think that maybe because they're used to living at a certain financial level, that they don't consider that other people don't live at that same financial level. Um, and I feel like maybe colleges and going for a bachelor's degree for nursing is kind of the same. You know, like you learn most everything that you're going to need to know in your associate's program. And at some level, the universities and the colleges, or the universities and the hospital are like, well, maybe it'd be good if we send them for another $25,000, $30,000 so that they can get their bachelor's degree over top of their associate's degree. But what is that $30,000 or whatever it is for another year and a half of schooling? What is that actually purchasing? You know, what is it really? Is it really going to help me? I could probably buy just about every nursing textbook that's out on the market, um, you know, for $30,000. You know, what are they going to teach me that I haven't already learned, or that is worth that $30,000 education for another year and a half? So I think that it might be a money grab. Man, you came up in the wrong spot, buddy. Ah, I got him. That sucker's dead. D-E-D, dead. There he is. Give me your meat. Aha, go to the bottom of the ocean, sucker. Oh, looks like we've got like a little outcropping coming up. Oh, don't want to disturb the bird. Bird. Bird's the word. Yeah, so I don't think that colleges and maybe even hospitals understand that they're asking already broke nursing students that have already given up a ton of their time, energy, and money to become nurses, and then saying, well, your associate's degree is not good enough anymore. Now you must go and get a bachelor's degree in order to be a registered nurse. Not realizing maybe that, you know, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they don't realize what they're doing to students by doing that. Increasing burnout probably because students are already just, you know, I want to just be a nurse. Let me just be a nurse. You know, why do I have to go to 6 years of schooling? Just let me be a nurse. 4 years is good enough. You know, I feel like they're possibly creating burnout by doing that. And then in addition, oh, I think I might have scared the bird by accident. I think they might be creating burnout. And in addition to that, they're certainly increasing to the anxiety of having to pay off student loans. You know, if students are already having to pay off $40 to $80 or $100,000 in student loans, it's like, okay, well, let's just add another $20,000 to $40,000. That looks like I missed it. I can get these feathers though, maybe. You know what? We're gonna add more. We're gonna add more. What you call it? We're gonna add more student loans, and add to that anxiety that students already have about paying off their student loans. You know, when am I gonna get my first job? I really need this job because I've got all these student loans to pay off. You know, I feel like it's kind of a giving them the benefit of the doubt and that they just don't know what they're doing. I feel like they really need to take that into consideration before increasing these education standards. And then secondarily, if they do know what they're doing and it is a money grab, which I kind of suspect that it's that, you know, I would love to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I don't know if it's a money grab or if it's just ignorance or whatever. But either way, I really hope that hospitals will start to recognize this and realize what they're doing to the future generations of nurses coming into the schooling. And I think it might be kind of a ripoff, just from what I know, like I said, speaking from a place of ignorance. Now, I know from a patient's perspective, you know, if I were a patient, I would want the most highly educated, hardest work, best nurse working on me, to take care of my health issues. Now that being said, how many people knew that there was actually different, how many people that are currently in hospitals getting treatment right now know that there's a difference between an associate's nurse and a bachelor's nurse, and know what that difference is. Because I'll tell you right now, there's a ton of LPNs out there. Whoa, what was that? Oh, palm leaf, who cares? There's a ton of nurses out there, LPN nurses, that are basically doing the job of registered nurses. They're basically operating at that level. And you would never know that they were, unless you saw their badge, you would never know that they were an LPN. And same thing, there are also RNs out there who, unless you knew that they were an RN, you might not know that they were an RN. You'd say, hey, maybe that's an LPN, or maybe that's a different level of nurse. So, I don't think there's that much of a difference. I don't think there's that much of a difference between an LPN and a registered nurse and a bachelor's registered nurse. Is there a difference? Absolutely, there's a difference. A lot of that is based off of the scope of practice, though, not on the capability of the individual. There are LPNs out there, heck, there are CNAs out there that probably know more about taking care of people's health than I do, because they work day in and day out with patients, and they've been doing that for 20 years. They know a lot more than me, even though I'm getting ready to be a registered nurse in a few months. So I think that there's definitely something to be said for hands-on experience. There's something to be said for education as well, but I do feel like it's a point where the education becomes worth, the school education has kind of reached the maximum point of, what it's worth. And I'm having a hard time I'm not in a hurry to go back to school for my bachelor's. I loved school and I hated school. I loved the learning, I loved the nursing part of school, I loved learning about the body and the disease processes and the skills that I'm going to be doing as a nurse. I hate the standardized testing. I hated, cramming tons of information and trying to remember as much as I possibly could, and then take a test based on that material, and then 6 months later have to do the whole, or 4 months later in the next semester, have to do the whole thing again. Have to learn completely new information about completely new disease processes, and just a ton of information about how the body works and how to take care of patients, and then take a test on it, and then the next semester be learning a completely different topic. It's impossible for any one human to remember every single thing. So students are doing the best that they can to remember what they can. And I'm not a fan of school. I never had an issue with anxiety before school, but I can safely say that I have at least a mild anxiety disorder now because of nursing school. So that's just my self-diagnosis. That is not a doctor diagnosis. But I am fairly certain that I have at least a mild anxiety disorder now because of nursing school. So just let me be a nurse. I guess that's the moral of this rant is, I have a hard time paying for things that I don't see the value in it, or at least the value seems disproportionate to what it is that I'm paying. And I feel that way about bachelor's nursing program. And I kind of went off on this tangent because I was thinking about first class, flights. Because with first class flights, with flying, I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. It's usually a 6-hour flight, or at the most, maybe an 8-hour flight or something. I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. That's my objective. Will I get there just the same with a coach ticket as I would with a first class ticket? Yes, I'm still going to arrive at my destination. The mission is completed. The goal is completed. So is it worth the extra money to stay in first class for that 6-hour flight? Or can I just tough through it for 6 hours, and, you know, be glad that I saved my extra $100 or $200 or whatever it is. So if you have flown first class and you feel like it's worth it, or you have and you feel like it's not worth it, either way, I'm not judging anybody. If you can afford it, or if you can't afford it but you just wanted to try out first class, there's absolutely no judgment here. I just wanted to know what it's like. If you thought it was a good return on investment. When I graduate, I have some money that, you know, certainly not a ton, but let's put it this way: I have the promise from someone that has pledged money to me. I have the promise that I might be able to go to Tokyo, which is something I've really been wanting to do for a long time after I graduate. And I just really want to see the Japanese culture. And it's going to be a long flight. And I'm just wondering if paying for the first class is going to be worth it on such a long flight. I'd love to get some insight from the audience. And thank you again for watching. I think this might be a good place to leave off the video. This video has gone a bit longer than my traditional videos. A big part of that's just because I'm ranting. So what have we done so far? We have picked up feathers from the bird, which is now roosting in our nest, which is great. What can I learn? Paintbrush and a hammock. So we did that, and what else have we done? Expanded the raft. We got some more meat cooking, which is important to keep that food level up. Killed the shark. And let's fill up our water pots before we go. There we go. And this will be a good place to save it off. I think when I come back, I'm going to get rid of that crop plot there behind the water purifiers. I'm maybe building another storage chest and expand the raft a little bit more. Told you to stay away from my bird's nest. Stab you in the eye. I know you don't realize what I did for you, bird, but you're welcome. So anyway, yeah, this is a good place to leave off. We didn't get a ton accomplished. We didn't go to an island. We got a couple of those coolers. We got plenty of planks now. So yeah, we got plenty of meat. I just got to cook it up. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening to my rant. Please let me know what you think about the whole thing. If there's somebody that I offended, or if my judgment about that was just completely off, please kindly correct me in the chat or in the comments. Like I said, I certainly speak from a place of ignorance because I haven't been there and I haven't done that. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment.